All right. How we doing now? Looks like it's better, actually. Yep. All I had to do was restart the computer, and boom, it's a lot better. Perfect. Cool. We're covering participles today. Ooh. I got boxes all over the place. Ugh. I'm not packing up and moving. I'm building a computer. I'm super excited about it. All right, so we're covering participles today. Shouldn't be too long, but that's what's on the agenda. We're introducing participles. It'll take a few weeks to get through it. Depending on how old school you are, you might feel like these are more like gerunds. But for our purposes, we're calling them participles. We'll be consistent about it at least. So let's dive into the content here. Just need it to load up. Just need it to now. No? Let's try this again. Exit slideshow, start slideshow again, play. That should do it. Yeah. This is our 16th lecture, and we are starting with participles today. We're not starting with participles. It's all participles, okay? So the thing about participles is there's no time significance. Everything we've done with verbs up until now has been indicative, okay? We've seen present time. We've seen past time. We've seen perfect time, right? So there's time built in to the indicative. The participle is not indicative. As a participle, there is no time significance. Now, you generally will translate it with an ing. This is why I was saying gerund. I really don't know enough about English to be able to tell you what the difference is, but I've heard this argument before, so it's worth noting that you might hear it too. But generally, you translate it with an ing. Walking. What's up, Angel? Thanks for joining me, brother. Happy Easter weekend. This is a pretty exciting lecture series today with the participles, or at least introducing them. It'll take a few weeks, but good stuff. Glad you joined. So generally you translate it with an ing. Walking, believing, running, going, destroying, saving, okay? It can be adverbial, it could be adjectival. Today we're going to cover adverbial. So participles can modify other nouns, and it can actually function adverbially or adjectivally. So we're going to be covering the adverbial side today. We'll get into the other kinds of participles next week, and I think this is a good 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. I can't quite remember. There's a lot to it. So when it comes to adverbial participles, it describes continuous action, but without respect to time. So there is no past tense participle. There is no present tense participle. Okay? There's no time aspect. What it does is it's related to the main verb of the sentence, therefore it's adverbial. Okay? It's functioning as an adverb. And what we'll do is use while or because as helping words in our translation to show how it's actually functioning in the sentence. When it is active, the word the participle modifies does the action of the participle. When the participle is passive, then the word the participle modifies receives the action of the participle. So that's how you'll use the active and passive. It helps determine who's doing the action of the participle. and modifying the verb, the main verb. Okay? Now, one thing especially to note with adverbial participles is they are anarthrous. You remember what anarthrous means? We learned it when we were studying nouns way at the beginning, like in week 2, week 3. Due to some lag, it may take a couple minutes for your answer to come through. So I'll move on. Let's see if you've got the answer. The adverbial continuous participles are built on the present tense stem. But again, there's no present tense time aspect. There's no time significance. Okay? The way these participles are built, it uses the present tense stem. You add a connecting vowel. You add a participle morpheme. And then you have your noun case endings. So for all intents and purposes, these participles look like nouns. Okay? But you'll be able to tell that they're participles because they're using some sort of verbal tense stem and a connecting vowel, and then the dead giveaway is going to be the participle morphemes. And then when in doubt, there's always context. So what is anarthrous? It's missing an article. Okay, there's no o, e, or to present. And that's one key to understanding the adverbial participle. If there is a definite article, then it's probably functioning adjectively, not adverbially. And that's going to change how you interpret it. So there are 4 participle morphemes. 1 is nitav, 2 is usa, 3 is meno, 4 is meni. Okay? When do you use nitav? This is for the masculine and neuter, and it uses the third declension. Usa is the feminine, and it uses the first declension. Those are for the active. When you're dealing with middle passive, remember, you've got men in the middle. Men in the middle. Meno, from masculine and neuter, that second declension, middle passive. Meni, that's the feminine first declension, middle passive. Men in the middle. Now, some of our endings, verbal endings, have men at the end. That's different because it's at the end. So when you see men in the middle, now you're talking participle. Look at the example here. Nominative singular, genitive singular, dative singular, accusative singular, and then all the plural. It's following the nouns, but these are verbs that are forming into participles, okay? Leon, leontos, leonti, leonta, leontes, leonton, leusin, leontas. Okay, that's the third masculine of Leo. You can see it's pretty much the same as the neuter because of the same noun rules, with the exception of the masculine, the nominative singular. Those are different. The accusative singular, those are different. And the nominative and accusative plural, those are different. Okay? So, but in large part, they're pretty much the same. The feminine, liusa, liusis, liusi, liusan, liuse, liuson, liuses, liusas. Okay? I've got a couple notes, but they're really small. Let me make them bigger for me here. Actually, I don't know if I can. Oh, the first note is simply just going over nominative masculine singular of Leo being the present active participle. The nitav, the tav drops off. If you remember the noun rules, tav drops off. We're left with the ni. The connecting vowel omicron lengthens to compensate, and we're left with leon with an omega. Okay? but that only happens in the nominative masculine singular. It does not do that in the neuter. It does not do that in the neuter nominative or neuter accusative singular, okay? The other note, I've got three others. Actually, I already went over the second one. Oh, in the feminine. Liusa, liusis, liusi, liusan. Just note the alpha eta shift. It can happen. Sometimes you'll end up with the alpha in the genitive. Sometimes you'll end up with the eta in the genitive. But you know what it is. So that's good. And then the final note. Oh, the dative plural masculine. Liusin. That's identical to third plural. Present active indicative. Looks exactly the same. The reason for it is the nitav drops out and the omicron oblauts or lengthens into omicron epsilon or something like that. So, yeah, context is key. So you got to understand the context. Cool. Let's move on to the next one here. So you would translate all of those like while destroying or because destroying, something like that, depending on the context. Now, with contract verbs, the contract vowel will contract with the connecting vowel just as it does in the indicative. So that does not change. Look at agapa, for example. It's an alpha contract. You have your connecting vowel omicron, your participle morpheme, nitav, and then your genitive singular ending, omicron sigma. Okay? So the alpha and the omicron contract. A fish plus a bomb is a dead fish, gives us omega, plus the nitav, omicron sigma. Okay? So one thing you should probably do is memorize imi. To be, I am, okay? The participle forms look a little interesting. And for the most part, it's exactly what you're going to find in your participle ending. So if you learn me, you're going to learn every single form that will attach to the present tense stem, okay? Remember leon? Here you just have own. Remember leontos? Now you just have ontos. Okay? You can see the accents. I would learn the accents too. Don't skip on those. But learn this form, and this will help teach you the participle, the active participle. Okay? So if you take the Leo and just drop off the present tense stem, you've got your imi participle. Okay? On, ontos, onti, onta, ontes, onton, usin, ontas. Usa, usis, usi, usan, use, uson, uses, usas. On, ontas, ontos, onti, on, onta, onton, usin, onta. All right? And for the most part, translate this while being or something like that. Now we're talking about the passive participle. Middle passive. Again, men in the middle. If you see men in the middle and not at the very end, you know you're dealing with the participle. Leomenos. Ageneto gegonen. No, I don't believe so. Ageneto would be from genome. And that, yeah, neither of those are participles. So leomenos, leomenu, leomeno, leomenon, leomeni, leomenon, leomenis, leomenus. Okay, that's the masculine passive. Okay, it looks almost identical to the neuter, except in the nominative and accusative, where it follows slightly different rules in the neuter, but for the most part, they're the same. And then the feminine, leomeni, leomenis, leomeni, leomenin, leomene, leomenon, leomenes, leomenas. Okay? So, while being destroyed could be one way you do it. So when you're translating these, what's the aspect? The aspect, there's no time. The aspect, when it uses the present tense stem, is continuous aspect. Walking continuously. Okay? What's the voice? Is it active, middle, or passive? So you're looking for your participle morpheme to determine, is it active, is it middle, or is it passive? If it's the middle passive men in the middle, then you need to start looking at context to determine, is it middle or is it passive? If the participle is middle in the lexicon, then it's probably going to be middle here. Okay? For example, erchome, I come, I go. So that one would probably follow the men in the middle and be middle rather than passive. So then you come to the question of meaning. Ask yourself 3 crucial questions. 1, what is the meaning of the lexical form of the verb? 2, what is the participle's case number and gender? And 3, which noun is the participle modifying? The answers to your questions there will help you determine, based on voice and based on the continuous aspect, how you will translate it. Okay? So it's a bit of a puzzle and it's fun to solve. For the most part, we're going to add ing to the end of it. Walking, saving, destroying. Okay? For example, John the Baptist came preaching in the desert. So this one could actually be the past tense of erchome plus preaching as a participle, adverbial participle. Okay? Sometimes you'll have being plus the English past participle. You heard me say that a moment ago. What did you go out into the wilderness to see? A reed being shaken by the wind. Okay? So it's a present tense stem, but depending on the context, you might use the word being, especially when it's passive, and then the past tense of that verb. Okay? This is why it's important to understand there's no time with participles. Okay? Now, if it's used temporally, a temporal participle, you'll use while plus ing. While passing by. If it's causal, you'll use because plus ing. Now, this is particularly when a participle provides the cause or reason for the main verb. Okay? Because he was righteous. I don't like this example because there's no ing on it. So that just goes to show ing is not a requirement. You usually use it, but you're not required to. What you are required to do is make sense of the context and put it all together into a translation that makes sense. This is why I have said before, and many people have said it, all translation is interpretation. It's not so simple as to just plug in the values and you get the English equivalent. It doesn't work that way. You have to take calculated understandings and put things together that a lexicon or a grammar just can't do. Okay? Now, I've been saying it, there is no time, except that there is relative time. What? James, you've been lying to me? No, I haven't been lying. It's different. So indicative indicates, that's how it gets the name, indicative. It indicates absolute time, which is a fancy way of saying the present tense stem, for example, usually indicates present action, for example, right? So that's the indicative. The participle's different. It has relative time. The time is indicated by the participle in a relative sense to the tense of the main verb. So it derives the time based on the main verb. If the main verb is present and you have a continuous participle, then you will translate it present continuous. For example, is praying. But if you have an aorist main verb plus a continuous participle, then it will be past continuous. Was praying. The participle itself is praying in both instances, but because of the presence of a present main verb or an aorist main verb, that will change your helping word. Is, was. Okay? So it has relative time. There's no time inherent to the participle itself. It derives its sense of time from the main verb alone. Okay? Now, we've already talked about the temporal, we've talked about the causal. So temporal is aorist participles describing an action occurring before the time of the main or finite verb. So you'll translate it after. Or while present participles describe an action occurring during the time of the main or finite verb. That's when you translate it while or when. Okay? After fasting, he was hungry. So that's an aorist participle describing an action occurring before the time. While staying with them, he charged them. That's a present participle. Okay? That's temporal. There's also manner, where it indicates the manner in which the action of the finite verb occurs. It can express attitude, emotion, things like that. So, for example, here in English, when the young man heard this, he went away sad. So, sad is your participle of manner, okay? There's also means. This is the means by which the action of the finite verb occurs. For example, we toil by working with our own hands. So, we toil how? By working. So means usually answers how. How is this action achieved? We saw cause before. It indicates the cause or reason or ground of the action of the finite verb. He was filled with joy because he had come to believe in God. There's the conditional, indicating a condition that must be fulfilled if the action of the finite verb is to be accomplished. So this is similar to a conditional phrase, but it's as a participle, an adverbial participle at that. And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith. So if you have faith is your participle, or participial phrase in this case. There's the concessive. It's indicating that the action of the finite verb is true despite the action of the participle. You would use the helping word although. Although you were dead in your transgressions. There could be the participle of purpose. Again, this is adverbial. It indicates the purpose of the finite verb, often translated as an infinitive. Okay, so the force is on intention. Purpose, intention. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him. The intention is on saving. There's also the result. It's very similar to purpose, indicating the result of the finite verb. the outcome. The force is on the outcome, not the intention. For example, in order to create in himself one new man out of the two, thus making peace. I don't like this particular example because it starts with the in order to, so it starts to give the idea that this is purpose. You'll see more about that later when we deal with subjunctive or even infinitive. But it's really more about thus making peace. That's the result. That's the intention there. So if you're dealing with purpose, it's what's the driving force leading up to the action. If it's result, it's the outcome of the action. Okay? And that's your introduction to participles. We will deal more with participles next week, and we'll keep at it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Angel, I know you are, but if anyone else gets to come watch this video, hit the subscribe button, and then hit the bell. Get the little brackets around the bell for notifications, so when I do go live, you get that alert on your phone or tablet or computer or, I don't know, your spyware, whatever you got, I don't know, Google Glasses or whatever that is. And I'd love to see you around. We had one other person come last week. It doesn't look like they were able to meet with us this week, but hopefully they'll follow up on the video. And we'll have some more people next week. And then if you want, you can go to, what's that? Streamlabs.com/phoneofone1 if you want to support and donate. You don't have to. This is free content, but I'd appreciate your support even if you just click subscribe. That'd be cool too. And then join us next week, Saturday again. I was supposed to be here today at 9 a.m. Pacific, but I was waylaid watching a movie with my son and had to do some chores outside. We're having company over for Easter, so. But here I am, and here we are, and we'll be back at it next week, 9 a.m. Pacific, bright and early. Don't forget to watch the Greek Word of the Day. Got another one coming out tonight at 7. We'll have another one tomorrow at 7. And I know I missed 1 or 2 days this week, but we'll be back on track, moving right along. And there you go. Also, if you've reached out to me on Facebook or Messenger in the light of recent events, I've deleted that stuff. I'm no longer dealing with Facebook and Instagram. If they can't protect me, then I don't want to be involved. So you can reach me on Twitter or Discord or on YouTube. If you have any questions, concerns, issues, feedback, shoot it my way. And if you have any questions about the material, feel free to ask. Love to help. Thanks for joining, Angel. And for anyone else who's watching later, thank you. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.